you probably have more questions than you've got answers. I mean, questions like, when can I finally pull that trigger? How much can I afford to spend every month in retirement? How long will my money last me? And when should I claim my Social Security benefits? And how much can I withdraw from my retirement accounts to avoid any penalties and fees? And guess what? That's just scratching the surface. This is where having a financial advisor on your side can really bring significant value, because there's no way you could possibly know everything there is to know about income, taxes, health care, inflation, Social Security, insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no way. Yet, any one of these items could make a huge difference in making your money go further in retirement. It could literally mean thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. Some people think that a financial advisors are only for the rich, but they're wrong. The people who will benefit the most from having an advisor are the ones who need to stretch every single dollar. They're the ones who need to make every dollar count. So how could an advisor help you? What tangible difference could they really make? How could they make your money go further in retirement? On today's show, I'm going to try to answer those questions and more. And if you've ever thought about getting some help with your retirement, or even if you just need to confirm you're on the right track, you don't want to miss this show. But first, let me always say a big, hearty thank you to all of our men and women in uniform and service. We really appreciate your sacrifices out there. Let's do a quick market update before we get into today's show. This week, the rally that we had seems to be fizzling out. And, we had upside targets of about 16.4 to 16.5 on the Dow. And that translates to about 1940 to 45 on the S&P. And sure enough, about midweek, it went up. Monday, it got up to that point, started to roll over and come back down. So for the future, some critical points to look for. If this market has any legs at all and can get going, the next level of resistance, an upside target would put the Dow or the S&P somewhere around 2,000, and then the Dow around the 16.8 to 17,000 area. But if it continues to fizzle, then what you need to watch out for is that 1812. One of my associates likes to call it the War of 1812. It's held a couple times in previous weeks and months. But if 1812 on the S&P 500 is broken, then likely we're going to see further downside. So that's just a heads up for you. Well, last week I read a really good article in U.S. News. And it was titled The 5 Signs You Need a Financial Advisor. You guys have so much available to you out there right now. You've got, low-cost funds. You've got ETFs. You've got these robo-advisor things at the discount brokerage houses. There's all kinds of different ways to invest your money. And a lot of you think, you can do it yourself. And this article went into some interesting detail as to how to determine whether you're in over your head or not. I want to talk about a couple of these points. First off, the number one issue is, or I guess it would be the yardstick, if you will, if you get a tax refund every year, that should tell you need a financial advisor. Now, why in the world would I say something like that? People look forward to that tax refund, for whatever reason. But let's talk about it. If you're getting a refund from taxes that you've had withheld all year long, what have you done all year long? You have given the government a tax-free loan from your pocketbook. Now, I got a better plan for that money. Why don't you put it in a Roth IRA? That makes a lot more sense than letting the government have a tax-free loan on your bacon and eggs. All right, here's another one. You don't have any idea how much you're paying in fees and commissions for your investments. A lot of them are hidden. There's just no way to find out unless you have a professional take a look at your portfolio. Here's another one. You've heard me harp all the time about having an exit strategy, and I was glad to see this in this report from U.S. News. You don't have a strategy for a down market. And if you don't have that strategy for a down market, you're going to lose your shirt just like you did in 2008. And again, right now is a great time to have a strategy for a down market. Here's another one. You're not even sure if you're saving enough. You have no idea how much money you need to have put away for retirement. You know, there was a cute little commercial that was making the rounds, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I guess it was. And it was from an insurance company called ING, now Voya. And it had these guys walking around with a sign and it had orange numbers. And they called it, "This is your number." You know, somebody had $1 million, somebody had $300,000. What is your number? Do you have any idea how much you need to have set aside for retirement? And if you don't know, you probably need a financial advisor. How about this? You've not even set up any kind of a legacy plan. What are you going to do with the assets that are left over after you and your spouse are gone? Any idea? What if you have some old family heirlooms that you want to make sure that, you know, little Joe gets as opposed to Sally and so forth? Have you thought about those conditions? If not, you need a financial advisor. Now, honestly, I hope you pick me, but if not, please find somebody that you know and can trust to help you guide through some of these issues. I want to tell you a little story about a client of mine. His name is Dick. No, it's really not. I just changed it to protect the innocent. But Dick is a professional corporate manager, and he came to me a couple years ago wanting to retire. And, you know, we're going to get into his story, but I want to just say this to you. You know, I talk and I meet as many as 20 to 25 folks a day. These are your friends, your neighbors, people throughout our community. That's 80 to 100 people a month. It's over 1,200 a year. And I've been doing this almost 28 years. Everybody's got a different story, but there are consistent themes that come up in nearly every single meeting. Here's a few of them. I don't want to lose one thin dime of my money. I don't trust the stock market. I can't make any money with 0% interest rates at the bank. And I'm afraid I'll run through my savings and I'll be broke in retirement. Do you feel the same way? Do you worry about some of these same issues? Well, we can help. Give me 60 minutes of your time and we'll answer those questions and more. Just give us a call at 336-391-3409. I'd love to sit down and talk to you about some of these questions. That's 336-391-3409. Well, let's get back to Dick. Dick is a professional manager. I would say he's a fairly high-level manager. And he came to me a couple months ago. In fact, I think he was listening to this radio program and decided to call 336-391-3409. And we sat down and we started talking about his situation. He had no idea that he could retire, or if he could retire, or when he could retire. But Dick was pressured. He'd been on the job for 40 years. You know, if you're working in corporate America right now, you know what they're doing to you. They're laying off folks and they're piling their responsibilities on you. Am I wrong? Well, that's what happened to Dick. He was burned out, he was wore out, and he was ready to retire. He realized it, and he knew he needed to do something. And he was concerned for his health if he kept this pace up. But he had no idea if he could retire. So we sat down, we went through our 5-point master plan with him. And on the second visit, he came back after I showed him, had finished working on his plan, and I showed him and his wife the results. And I said, Dick, You can retire. Not only can you retire, you can retire easily. And he knew exactly how much money he needed every month to maintain his lifestyle. And I showed him how that could be done. We figured exactly how much rate of return he needed to get on his assets over the course of him and his wife's lifetime to make his retirement a reality. And we put a plan in place for Dick. And Dick's going to retire in June or July. And he's going to hit the road. His big goal was when he retired, he and his wife loved to RV. So they're going to buy themselves a nice little rig, and they're going to hit the road, and they're going to explore America. Now, you know what makes me happy? When I see a guy like Dick come in for the first meeting with a frown on his face, sweat on his brow, you can see the worry in the man's face. And then after the second meeting, I've proved to him that retirement is right around the corner. He can do it. And his face lights up. There's a big grin that breaks across his face. And he just smiles with confidence. That's what makes me feel good about my job. You know, working with folks like Dick is just absolutely one of the best things that I look forward to every day. And now the second segment coming up, I'm going to tell you about a different story. This guy, George Jetson, we'll call him, he's completely different from Dick. He's a hardworking guy. He works in the warehouse. So stay tuned for George Jetson's stories coming up after we take a small break. You're listening to the Wealth Guardians right here on 94.5 WPTI, the Piedmont's News Talk and Sports Station. Welcome back. I'm Doug Ray, and this is the Wealth Guardian Show. You know, according to a research piece by Morningstar, that's one of the premier financial trade publications, a financial advisor could help increase your income in retirement by 22+%. That's not bad, right? That 22.6% more income in your pocket to spend on yourself, your kids, your grandkids, traveling, whatever the case may be. That's 22% more in income. So coming up on this segment, we're going to reveal the true value of advice and plus some of the strategies we use with our very own clients that could literally change your whole lifestyle in retirement. You know, there was another article I read recently from Bankrate.com, and the gist of this one was that financial planners are not just for millionaires anymore. You know, I told you in the first segment the true story actually of a client of mine, Dick, who is a upper mid-level manager for a major corporation. In this segment, I'm going to tell you a story about George Jetson, who's pretty much completely the opposite. But you know, if you have a headache, you go to the doctor, right? And if you got a toothache, you go to the dentist. And if you got a money problem, well, you might want to become acquainted with a good financial planner. Now let's talk about this. How can a good financial planner help you? You know, a good financial planner, we can sit down, we can look at your current financial situation, we can review your tax returns, all your income sources, your liquid and illiquid assets, your wills, your insurance policies, your estate and retirement planning documents. We can identify your financial needs and goals. That's easily done. We sit down, we just ask you some questions. We have a conversation, and we figure out what you want to do, what's important to you and your spouse. Then we put all that information together and we develop a financial plan, a 5-point master financial plan. Then we explain the pros and the cons of the various options you can use in financial instruments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, IRAs, Roth IRAs, etc., and advise you in identifying the professionals out there that can help you put everything in place, like a CPA, an attorney, accountants, lawyers, that kind of thing. And then, and this is most important, we execute the plan. We kick the ball off. We get your game rolling. So many people, they might plan, they might put all these parts together, but they never execute. Procrastination, scared, I don't know what it is, you tell me. But a lot of people never put the plan in place. And then here's another important piece of it. Periodically, we will sit down with you and we will review the progress you're making. It's basically what we've done here is we put a retirement roadmap together. We're getting you from point A, which is working, to point B, which is retirement. And we want to make sure periodically that we're on track. We didn't deviate. We didn't, take a detour or something like that. So it could be as often as once a quarter, or it could be at least at minimum, you need to have an update meeting once a year. So those are the ways a financial advisor can help you and help create that 22% more income. And here's a thought. When you retire, just how are you going to generate income? You just going to take a distribution from your 401k? If so, what's the impact on taxes on your Social Security? Do you know what the thresholds are before you create a taxable situation on your Social Security? We can help you with that. Another thought is this. Let's prepare now in building your Roth IRA and creating tax-free income, because that income does not impact Social Security taxation. All of these are invaluable measurements into creating extra wealth and stretching your dollars in retirement for years on end. All right, so now let's, I have a very interesting case study here to bring up. George Jetson. I love to change these folks' names, but they're real. Every one of these case studies I tell you about here on the radio are very real. George has worked for a company for 40 years. He has been basically a blue-collar worker. He first heard me on the radio many years ago, and I was talking about building your personal pension plan. And he thought that was a good idea, so he came in and we started that progress for him. This has been maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Last year, George's company got bought. Now, does that happen a lot in this economy? Has your company ever been bought? If it has, then you probably know what George was dealing with. He was dealing with a lot of change in their retirement plans, their 401ks. They even had a pension that had to be figured out. And I'll tell you what, it was complicated. In fact, it was one of the more complicated cases I've come across. So George is a smart guy, but he's not what I'd call a sophisticated guy in terms of finances. He needed help, and he realized he needed help. So he called me up. We had a meeting. I took a look at his situation, and we deciphered all the various moving parts and what was right for him. In a situation like that, where you're basically a blue-collar worker, you've worked 40 years in the warehouse, and all at once, your whole world changes. This is when good financial advice is worth, its weight in gold. Now, he wasn't the only one impacted. He had several friends there at the company that were in the same boat. They had, 20, 30 years of service there, and they had all of this 401ks and pensions and so forth to deal with. So George actually told those folks they ought to come and sit down and chat with me, and they did. So you don't have to be a millionaire to get or need a financial advisor. A lot of people say to me, I don't have enough money that you probably want to deal with me. And that's the furthest thing from the truth, folks. If I can help you, I'm going to help you whether you got $5,000 or $5 million. It doesn't matter to me. I want to be a resource for you. I want to be able to help you out. So again, in that situation, when you're faced with a change like George was faced with, and you need good, solid financial advice, pick up the phone. Find yourself an advisor that you can trust. Are you a do-it-yourselfer? Do you really get a sense of confidence when, let's say, you build a piece of furniture yourself, or you repair a busted toilet, or maybe you're a gardener and you like to grow a big garden in the springtime? It gives you that nice fuzzy feeling, doesn't it? I think everybody has a little bit of that in them. Maybe they think they can save a few bucks doing the same thing. But let me ask you this. When you plan for retirement, are you better off going it alone? Or is it possible you can make your money go much further by getting some help from someone who does it for a living? Between managing a career and a family, there's no way you could possibly know everything about generating income in retirement. Reducing your taxes, protecting yourself from skyrocketing cost of health care, inflation, the changes that have happened in Social Security, the estate planning needs. This list goes on and on. It's never ending. And that's where sound advice and the right experience can help you make the most of your hard-earned savings in retirement. Get the conversation started today. Just a simple phone call does it. There's no cost. There's nothing for you to lose. If you are in a position where you're ready to start planning for retirement, then call us 336-391-3409. Again, the number is 336-391-3409. Let's sit down and have a 60-minute conversation, just you and I. So as we roll into the closing minutes of today's show, what I'd like to do with you is kind of recap what we talked about. I think it's so important for you, if you're looking at retiring in the near term, to sit down and make sure you have a written plan. One of the things we discussed today is organization. A good financial planning professional can help you bring order to all your financial life. Accountability is another one. Will help you follow through on your financial commitments. Objectivity. We can bring insight from outside to help you avoid emotionally driven decisions in important money matters. And let me tell you something, when it's time for you to make that retirement decision, it is emotional. You might not think it is, but think about this. You've been working 20, 30, 40 years, and now life as you know it is about to change. It is emotional. We can help you through that. Education. We'll explore what specific knowledge will be needed to succeed in your situation. And again, we're going to put together for you that master 5-point retirement plan, which is your roadmap to success in retirement. You're never going to ask the question again, will I run out of money in retirement before I run out of life? You'll know exactly what you need to have. And you'll know the best ways to take income out of your plan. Do you delay taking Social Security or not? We've talked about Social Security quite a bit, and in next week's show, I'm going to have a Social Security expert on the show with me, because the changes are extremely important. But most people right now don't know how to synergistically incorporate their Social Security with their retirement income strategies. If you delay taking Social Security, you may have to rely more on your 401k and IRA funds in the early part of your retirement. If you, on the other hand, have a goal where you would like to retire early, say at 62, then you may have to forego a delayed strategy. Do you have any idea which one of those roads you're headed down? It kind of reminds me of that Robert Frost poem, Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that made all the difference. Thank you, folks. We'll see you next week. This is Doug Ray on the Wealth Guardian Show on 94.5 WPTI, the Piedmont's News Talk and Sports Station.